Right, so we're going to start off with simultaneous equations. Simultaneous equations are very, very easy if you understand equations, right? And equations are very, very simple. Equations are as simple as this. So 2 cans of Coke and a packet of potatoes is 350. Okay. From that, you could say that another equation would be that a can of Coke and 2 packets of potatoes is 340. Okay. So this is 2 equations that I formed. But the important thing about equations is that I can add equations. So what I can say there is I can say that 3 cans of Coke and 3 packets of potatoes is equal to a certain amount. And obviously, this is just to highlight what we're doing. From this, you can see that we're adding equations. So I can add these equations. If I have 3 cans of Coke and 3 packets of potatoes, I'm obviously expecting it to be £6.90. Okay, because I can add those equations to get £6.90. Okay. So everything that we do with simultaneous equations is very, very simple. It's just that as long as you're aware of the fact that you can add and subtract equations. And I'm going to show you that over here. So we're going to add these equations here and see what happens. So if we look at this here, we'll start off with the first one there. And 5 plus 4 is going to give us an answer there of 9. So I'm going to fill in 9. Okay. Similarly, 2 plus 3 is going to give us an answer of 5. So I can put 5 in there. And this is just showing you that you can add equations. So I can add them there. And 5 plus 3 will give me 8. Okay. Plus 2 plus 4 will give me 6. And that will be equal to, if I add them this way and say 8 plus 6, I'll get an answer of 14. But similarly, you should be able to see that I can add them this way, and 9 plus 5 will give me 14. It's the exact same with these ones. So if I add these here, 6 plus 1 will give me 7. 2 plus 8 will give me 10. If I add 6 and 2, I'll get 8. If I add 1 and 8, I'll get 9. And if I add 8 and 9, I'll get 17. And you can see there, if I add 7 and 10, I'll get 17. If I add 1 and 8, I'll get 9. And if I add 6 and 2, I'll get 8. So it's just showing you that they work. All I'm trying to emphasize here is that I'm able to add and subtract equations. So I'll do the same with this one here. 7 plus 2 will give me 9. 3 plus 4 will give me 7. And if I was to add my equation, 7 plus 3 will give me 10. 4 plus 2 will give me 6. 7 plus 9 will give me 16. And obviously 6 and 10 is 16. Okay, so from this, you should be able to understand that we can add equations. What I'm going to show you next is that you can subtract equations. Okay, so we'll quickly just do that. So all of this, obviously, you already know. So all this should be easy to you. And the reason why it should be easy to you is because a lot of the time when people are doing maths, they tend to learn maths. Whereas a lot of the time you actually already understand what's happening, but you just don't develop an understanding. Instead, people tend to learn off how to do maths as opposed to understand how to do maths. So we'll just look at this one here. So 7 plus 4 is going to give us 11. 3 plus 1 is going to give us 4. But I can subtract equations. So I can say that 7 take away 3 will leave me with 4. Similarly, I can say 4 take away 1, so I'm subtracting all of these. So I'm subtracting the equations. So 4 take away 1 will leave me with a positive 3. Okay. And 11 take away 4 will leave me with 7. Now let's just check that. 11 take away 4 is 7. 4 take away 1 is 3. 7 take away 3 is 4. 4 plus 3 is 7. So I'm going to do the exact same with these ones here. And the reason why I'm doing this, and I know some of you are finding this quite onerous, the reason why I'm going through this and emphasizing this so much is because when you get on to simultaneous equations, which are the next ones with x's and y's, it's the exact same thing. So if you're finding this easy at the minute, you'll find simultaneous equations very, very easy. And that's when we're dealing with x's and y's and everything else. So let's quickly get the last two done. So 5 plus 3 gives us 8. Okay, 2 plus 2 gives us 4. If I was to subtract those equations, 5 take away 2 leaves me with 3. 3 take away 2 leaves me with 1. 8 take away 4 leaves me with 4. And 3 plus 1 obviously gives me 4. just be extra careful because I'm subtracting this 2, I'm subtracting this 2, and I'm subtracting this 4 because I'm subtracting the equation. I'm not just subtracting 2, I'm subtracting the full equation. And the last one there, 6 plus 4 gives you 10, 1 plus 3 gives you 4. If I was to subtract the equation, 6 take away 1 will give me 5, 4 take away 3 will give me 1, 10 take away 6 will give me, or 10 take away 4 will give me 6. And if I was to add them, 5 plus 1 gives me 6. So the key point is that you can add and subtract equations. Okay? And that brings us on to the simultaneous equations, which are the next ones. And I'm going to show you that now. Okay? So here we have a list of simultaneous equations. So you can see there, simultaneous equations just means that you've got two equations with two unknowns. In this case, we've got x's and we've got y's. So simultaneous just means that you have to use the two equations to solve, to find the value for x and then find the value for y. So you'll end up with two answers. Okay, and what I've given you in blue there is the answers. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take two of those equations, equation 1 and 2, and I'm just going to work through them as an example, and then I'll bring us back onto this again and we can do that question then for a finish. So if we skip on to question 2, okay, you should be able to see the two equations there. What I'm going to do, and I'm going to zoom in on this, I'll go through the first question with you, I'll do the first one, and then we can do I'll give you a chance to try the second one yourselves. So just starting by looking at this, you can see here that I have two equations, one with x's and one with y's. And from what I did with you a second ago, you need to look at this equation and you need to think, if I want to get a value for the x's or if I want to get a value for the y's, I need to get a value of one of them first. But use what you know about adding and subtracting equations. So if I was to add these equations, I'd get 4x, these would cancel, equals 16. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to eliminate the y's. So let's start by writing out the question. x plus 2y equals 6, and 3x minus 2y equals 10. Now in this case, you can see that these are both 2y. One's positive and one's negative. So if I was to add them together, effectively what I'd be doing is I'd be cancelling them. So if I was to add those two equations, okay, if I was to add those two equations, the y's would cancel and I'd just be left with x's. I'd be left with 4x equals 16. If I know that 4x equals 16, to find out what 1x is, I divide both sides by 4. And if I divide the left hand side by 4, I'd be left with 1x. But because it's an equation, I have to divide the right hand side by 4. And that would leave me with x equals 4. That's my first answer. So I know what x is equal to. I now need to go back and find y. So now find y. And how we find y is we take the equation. It doesn't matter if we take the first one or the second one. I typically take the first one. So take the equation x plus 2y equals 6. And instead of x, I can put in 4. Okay, so 4 plus 2y is equal to 6. So 2y will be equal to 6 minus 4. So 2y will be equal to 2. So y in this case will be equal to 1. Okay, so that's my second answer there. X equals 4, y equals 1. Okay, so that's the first question done. The second question there, you can see I've given you the answers. You can check the answers. If you want to try the next one there first, and then we'll go through it. So we'll just go through the second one there, right? So x plus y is equal to 7. X plus y is equal to 7. So 2x plus y is equal to 12. So in this case, I can see there. In this case, I need to either add or subtract the equations to get rid of either the x's or the y's. But in this case, I can see that I've got one y there and one y there. So it's very easy to see that if I want to get rid of something, in this case, the easiest thing to get rid of is the y's. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to subtract my equations. So when I subtract them, I just put, I'm going to have to subtract 2x, I'm going to subtract y, and I'm going to subtract 12. So I just put a little subtract sign there so I can see what I'm doing. So in this case, x, take away 2x. So if you had €1 on the bank and you took out 2, you'd owe them 1. So you'd have negative 1x equals, if you had, obviously these will cancel because y take away y leaves us with nothing. If you had €7 on the bank and you took out 12, then you'd owe the bank 5. Okay, so we'd have a negative 5. So to find out what 1x is equal to, we need to divide both sides by negative 1. Well, I won't even say divide, I'll say times. Times both sides by negative 1. You could say divide, same thing, but I think people find it easier if you say times. So that gives us our x value, which is 5. Okay. Once you've found your x value, then you have to go and find your y value. So now find y. So look at your steps. How am I going to find y? I have a value for x, so that's obviously going to help me. So obviously in maths, every time we complete a step, we're helping ourselves get closer to the solution. So that helps us. So we need to go back and we need to look. We need to take one of these equations, and instead of x, I can put in 5. So I'm going to take the first one. So x plus y is equal to 7. Instead of x, I'm going to put in 5 plus y equals 7. So y will be equal to 7. And obviously, if I'm bringing that 5 over to the other side, it'll turn into a minus 5. So y will be equal to 2. So you can see there, that's our second answer. So with simultaneous equations, we always get two answers, one x value, one y value. Or if it was a's and b's or whatever it may be, you always end up with two answers. So in this case, 5 and 2, 5 and 2. So we'll get going with these ones here. So 2 more for you to try. You've got the answers there, so you can check to see if you're getting them right. So if you want to power on, just keep going and you can see if you're getting them right. Just for anyone who's still stuck, I'm going to go through these two as well, right? So 3x minus y equals 11. 3x minus 2y equals 13. So again, I've got two equations with two unknowns, x's and y's. Okay. I know from what I did earlier that I can add and subtract equations. So I can add or subtract these equations. And the whole idea of adding and subtracting the equations is by adding and subtracting them, I can get rid of either the x's or the y's. So in this case, I can see that I have 3x and 3x. So I want to get rid of the x's. Be easy to get rid of the x's in this case. And how I can get rid of the x's there is I either have to add or subtract the equations. And it's quite obvious. If I was to add those equations, I get 6x. So that's not getting rid of them. So in order to get rid of them, I need to subtract. But if I'm going to subtract, I have to be extra careful with my signs, because I'm going to subtract 3x. Here I'm going to subtract a negative. So if I'm going to subtract a negative, it's going to turn into a positive. And here I'm going to subtract positive, so that will end up being a subtract. Okay, so we'll do that. And obviously, these will cancel. Negative 1 plus 2 leaves us with just 1y. And if I have 11 take away 13, 11 take away 13 leaves me with negative 2. So that would be y equals negative 2. That would be our first answer. Well, our first part of the question. So if we worked out what y is, now we just need to find x. And how we find x is very simple. we just take one of these equations. I always tend to take the top one 90% of the time, so I take the top one. And in this case, I'm going to take the top one, and instead of y, I'm going to put in negative 2. So 3x minus y equals 11. And you can see there, like I said, instead of putting in y, I'll put in minus 2. Okay, and that's because I know that y is equal to minus 2, so I'm just going to put minus 2 in instead of y. I need to tidy that up using my skills at algebra. So 3x minus minus 2 will turn into plus 2 equals 11. So that means that 3x will be equal to 11. And obviously, if I bring this positive 2 across the equal sign, it'll turn into a negative 2. So we're almost there. 3x will be equal to 9, because 11 take away 2 is 9. So 1x will be equal to 3. Because if I divide both sides there by 3, I get x equals 3. Final answer there, and that's that done. So we'll just do one more, and then I'll give you some questions to try. Okay, so if we just get this last one done, and then I'll give you some questions to try. So last one, and then we'll give you the questions. So 2x plus 3y equals 9. 4x plus y equals 13. Now, this one is slightly different in that in every question I've done so far, I've either added or subtracted the equations to get rid of the x's or the y's. But in every question I did so far, I would have had 4x and 4x, or 2x and 2x. So I would have had these being the same value, or these being the same value. So in order to make sure that I get the value in front of the x, the value in front of the y being the same, I need to look at it, and I need to know what I need to do what I already know with equations. I need to either scale it up or scale it down. So with this one, in order to solve this equation here, I'm going to have to scale up my x's or my y's. So in this case, I'm going to scale the top fraction up, or the top equation up, by 2. So I'm going to multiply everything in the first first equation by 2. And if I do that, I'll end up with 4x and 4x, and then I'll be able to cancel them. So I'm going to start off there by saying the first equation multiplied by 2, which will give me 2 times 2x will give me 4x. 2 times 3y will give me 6y, so plus 6y. And 2 times 9 will give me 18. So I know I can scale up equations, and I did that previously, especially when we were working with equations, we were doing that. And now I'm back ready to go like the last couple of questions I did. I have to either add or subtract the equations, and in this case, it would be best to subtract the equations, because the 4x's need to cancel, and in order to cancel the 4x's, I need to subtract them. So I'm going to subtract those two equations there, and I'll end up with, let me just put that in there so you can see. If I'm going to subtract them, that will be negative, this will be negative, this will be negative. And I always just fill that in as a reminder, just so that I know, right? So 4x take away 6x will leave me at nothing. 6y take away y will leave me with 5y. 18 take away 13 will leave me with 5. So y will be equal to, if I divide both sides by 5, y will be equal to 1. And I gave you that in the answers there, so you can, as you work through the question, you can see, am I getting these right? And in this case, you can see you're getting that right so far. Now I need to go and find x. So I found y, now find x. And I just highlight the answer because I always tend to do that because it makes it easier for you to see at a glance. Okay, so in order to find x, like I've done with everything so far, I'm going to write out the first equation. I could write out this equation, I could write out this equation, I could write out this equation, but I typically just use the first one. So I'm going to write out the first equation there, which is 2x plus y, or 2x plus 3y equals 9. So what we'll do now is we'll just put in our value for y, and we can see that the value for y is 1. So if the value for y is 1, I need to put 1 in here instead of y. Okay, so 2x is going to stay as 2x plus 3 times 1, because it's 3 times y, and I know y is equal to 1, is equal to 9. So 2x plus 3 is equal to 9. So 2x is equal to 9. And obviously I'm bringing this 3 across, so it's going to turn from a positive to a negative when I bring it across. So 2x will be equal to 6, so 1x will be equal to 3. Obviously I'm dividing both sides there again by 2. So let me just put in that just in case anyone's unsure. So what I'm actually doing there is I'm dividing both sides by 2. Divide this side by 2 and divide this side by 2. So that's all those questions there. That's the first 4. I'll just show you the next ones that I expect you to be able to do, and we'll have a look at them, and the answers are attached as well. Okay. So the ones I expect you to be able to do are here. We've done question 1, 2, 3, and 4. You'd need to do question 5. Now, in this case, you need to look at it and see would I get rid of the x's or the y's. In this case, I would get rid of the x's by scaling this up by 3. So if we multiply everything here by 3, then we'd be able to get rid of the x's because we'd end up with 3x. So the x's will cancel. In this case, I would get rid of the y's because I'd scale everything there by 2. I might just write that in just to give you a starting point. So in this case here, so for question 5, I would multiply everything by 3 before I start. So if you multiply everything by 3 in this line here, then you should be able to solve because you'll end up with 3x over 3x, which was the same as this, you could say almost. In this question here, I would multiply everything by 2 in the first equation, because if you multiply everything by 2, then you'd end up with 2y and 2y. And the next couple of questions I'll just show you how I expect you to do them, and then we'll leave it at that. Okay, so for question 7, I would look at it. If you were going to get rid of x's or y's, in this case it's easiest to get rid of x's by multiplying the first equation by 2. And I'll just show you question 8, and then after that I'll leave you to do the rest by yourselves. So for question 8, I think you should get rid of the x's, and you could do that easily by multiplying the first equation by 3. But just make sure that you multiply everything by 3. So you have to multiply, if I was doing this one, I'd have to multiply x by 3, multiply this by 3, multiply this by 3. Okay. So I think that's enough for you to get through today. The answers are there. You can try those questions and you can come back to me and let me know how you get on with them. If you're finding them tough, we can go through a few more of them. But I think for now it's best if you practice for yourself